Why Spider-Man is returning to the MCU. Hooray! Marvel fans who sorely were disappointed at the end of the summer, then word got out that Spider-Man was no longer going to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Oh my gosh! Since his debut, Spider-Man has been one of the most popular characters for Marvel fans, period. His departure was met with outcry and disbelief. The internet was in upheaval. It broke the internet. However, we have good reason to believe that Spider-Man will be returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Want to find out why? Keep watching to find out. Nothing to do with red spandex, and how it's trendy, and I'm wearing some right now. Okay. Everything up to this point. When Jon Favreau offered a word stating that he hoped that everything would work out between Sony and Marvel Studios, fans were cautiously optimistic that the two companies would come to terms and Spider-Man would indeed stay in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Unfortunately, that optimism was misplaced, and as of now, Marvel and Spider-Man has departed from the MCU and Sony. We mention as of now for a very important reason. At Variety's Entertainment and Technology Summit, it was said, for the moment, the doors closed when discussing the possibility of fans seeing Spider-Man's reunion with his fellow Marvel Cinematic Universe characters. He went on to discuss the relationship with Kevin Feige by stating, "We had a great run with Kevin Feige from Spider-Man movies. We tried to see if there's a way to work it out. The Marvel people are terrific people. We have great respect for them. But on the other hand, we have some pretty terrific people of our own. Kevin didn't do all the work." This is actually pretty interesting to hear, considering that Sony had mentioned that one of the major roadblocks to making the deal and getting it worked out was because Feige is stretched incredibly thin when it comes to managing the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it is. Marvel fans will note that throughout all the talks, Feige has yet to commit in regards to his ability to handle additional workload. Sony also went on to claim that Spider-Man was perfectly fine before the Marvel Cinematic Universe version came to life. In addition, they were willing to claim that they have their own universe now. Yeah, okay. Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, anybody remember those? I wish I didn't! Basically, there's been a lot of double talk lately, which is indicative that just maybe the future of Spider-Man is up in the air after all still. We're going to explore the potential reasons for why Spider-Man is returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so without any further delay, let's take a look at our first reason. Sony will fail. Let's use some real-world logic for a moment, okay? Can we do that concerning the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Spidey-Man, web-slinging, and overall your friendly neighborhood guy? The fact is that the initial run of Spider-Man movies featuring Tobey Maguire was successful up until Spider-Man 3 all of a sudden came crashing down like, oops, ran out of webs, and I'm slinging by Empire State Building 30th floor. Next thing you know, I'm dropping like a rock. When they jumped the shark by throwing in too many villains, Sony tried to reboot Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. They ended up making Spider-Man 1 and 2, as we mentioned. Both were considered failures and ultimately not worth investing in further. This led to Sony agreeing to share Spider-Man with Marvel Studios. Ergo, flash forward here a little bit to today, and we have the beloved Spider-Man with existing storylines that Sony can rip off. Basically, Spider-Man was practically gift wrapped for Sony. Sony even has a sleeper hit in the form of Venom and a significant hit with Into the Spider-Verse. Naturally, we feel like they can handle the character of Spider-Man. Now it's been set up. This feeling is understandable. It's also wrong. To date, Sony has proven they can generate some success with superhero movies. That isn't in question, really. Sometimes. However, they have never been able to sustain their success. Their lack of vision and execution necessary to keep the storyline going has hurt them. Yes, one-off, 2 movies, awesome, we can do that. But when you change up directors, like you're popping like pixie sticks and you're a 3-year-old and just sugar high, crash, sugar high, crash. Unfortunately, we're most likely going to have to suffer through another 2 Spider-Man movies proposed by Sony before they realize this and decide to share Spider-Man again with Marvel Studios to revitalize him and the storyline into a strong, vitalic, web-slinging awesomeness hero with tingling spider sense. As a final point, let's also consider that sorry Sony, that was a little rough, wasn't it? Let's also consider that Marvel fans aren't going to forget all of their adventures Tom Holland's Spider-Man had. It's not like we can mind wipe ourselves and forget the dynamic between Spider-Man and Iron Man, between the potential team up between him and Deadpool. I mean, seriously, it all started with Iron Man falling out for Underoos to have Spider-Man make his entrance, which was followed up by him stealing Captain America's shield. Here it up next, we have to admit that with superb writing and direction, the transition from Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man to Sony Spider-Man can be handled fairly easily. That being said, we don't see this being the case considering the history of Sony and their attempts at superhero movies overall, especially longer term, multiple Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 4 sort of ones. It's probably going to be clumsy and end with Sony making amends with Marvel Studios. It's all a publicity stunt. Let's consider something that hasn't been really discussed heavily or with any seriousness so far. What if this entire thing is actually just a publicity stunt? After all, influential celebrities, cast members, and producers have all weighed in on the matter. In addition, the sheer number of articles available on this topic only serves to highlight just how important Spider-Man is, and is also a brilliant way of keeping Marvel Studios and Sony in the minds of the fans. In addition, let's consider the Phase 4 schedule, along with the very little we know about Phase 5. Absolutely no mention was made of Spider-Man. Did you notice that? We all knew Spider-Man 3 was supposed to happen, but nothing concrete was developed. This indicates two things. Number one is that Marvel Studios has no plans to use Spider-Man for a while. Basically, Spider-Man was being given a vacation so that new characters could be developed. Understandably so. If this is indeed true, then we have to assume that the comments about Kevin Feige being unable to handle things is patently untrue and misleading. Secondly, there's actually a lot of time for Sony to have a turn with Spider-Man and then give him back to Marvel Studios. If this idea is true, then Sony and Marvel Studios are both diabolical masterminds. Despite fans demanding Spider-Man be returned to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we all know that ultimately people are going to the next Spider-Man movie, no matter who it comes from. We all want to see what Sony does with the popular web slinger and can easily watch two movies popping up out of this. Finally, this idea actually only serves to reinforce the idea of the multiverse that Marvel Studios is so determined to explore. I mean, think about it. For a few years, Spider-Man is off chilling with Venom and has just a couple of solo movies to have some adventures, and then boom, he's back in the universe we currently know. All of a sudden, he steps in as a long-awaited returning hero and continues off where he left, but a little bit different. Different haircut. Look at that. Different universe. Duh. Different Spider-Man. Different Spider, same Marvel Cinematic Universe. Different Spider, same Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay, so the whole thing is real, and Peter Parker is truly gone from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's okay, we're not lost yet. We're also not necessarily without a Spider-Man. Peter Parker is not the only Spider-Man to exist. There's Miles Morales, Ben Reilly, William Bradrick, and Miguel O'Hara, among others. In addition, there's also female spiders available if Marvel Studios chooses to embrace more female heroes. Some options are Spider-Gwen and Spider-Woman. They all have their merits and, more importantly, built-in ways to arrive into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're going to explore those ways right now. Miles Morales, Spider-Man. Miles gains his powers after he's bitten by a spider that crawled onto his uncle's bag. His uncle is the Prowler, who we already met in Spider-Man Homecoming. Marvel Studios could just bring him into the scene to replace Peter while he's, quote, away. Ben Reilly. Okay, the clone saga was largely despised in the comics. However, even the worst series can still have a couple of bright spots. One of those is Ben Reilly, who's arguably one of the most well-known alternative versions of Spider-Man. Once again, out of hate. Ben is a clone of Peter Parker and took the name Ben Reilly to honor his uncle and aunt. After wandering for 5 years, he found purpose by realizing that he could help people with his spider powers. He ended up duped by the Scarlet Spider, and he represents another option for Marvel Studios to take advantage of. Personally, I hope they do go down this line. I think it makes a good story, if done well, maybe rewritten from the comics. William Bradrick. The power of the multiverse is huge and is... Okay, that's the best English accent I got. He is from the UK. The power of the multiverse is huge and is evident with the many versions of Spider-Man available. This version is one that actually travels the multiverse on purpose. He does so to combat a group that feeds on creatures with enhanced DNA. It sounds like a blockbuster movie to us. Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099. Here, hey, we have already explored time travel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Why not explore the future and bring Spider-Man 2099? We can see it now. Something happens in the past that results in Marvel Cinematic Universe, Spider-Man's 2099 existence being threatened, and the only hope is to restore the original Spider-Man. It could ultimately and mainly work because of superhero logic. Kind of fun too. Gwen Stacy, Spider-Ghost. In the main universe, Gwen Stacy was Peter's girlfriend who got killed by Green Goblin. Well, we have yet to see Green Goblin in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so it only makes sense that we get introduced to the version of Gwen that got the spider's powers instead of Peter. Plus, alternate Peter was killed, so hey, no messy "where's Peter" questions going on this route. Not to mention the character is young and female, which is a popular trend for Marvel Studios. Jessica Drew. Spider powers from a laser. Those sharks with lasers on their head. Jessica was actually trained by Hydra, who's the sworn enemy of Captain America and S.H.I.E.L.D. She escaped them and became a PI. She died, got resurrected, and possessed by the Queen Skrull. When it's all said and done, she joined the Avengers to make it all the wrong things she did. Considering her connections with so many groups we have already seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we can safely say that Jessica could easily slip into current events. As we've covered, there are a lot of ways alternate versions of Spider-Man can arrive in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There are a lot more options available than just the ones we covered, so the possibilities are actually limitless. With Doctor Strange trip into the multiverse coming up and the existence of time travel, it's not unreasonable to think that this route is one that Marvel Studios will explore in the future, with or without the original Spider-Man himself. Final thoughts. Spider-Man is a beloved and extremely profitable superhero for both Marvel Studios and Sony. There's no disrupting that. We know that we're getting at least 2 more Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland, albeit under the Sony umbrella. At least as things currently stand. In addition, it's been reported that he would be involved with Venom 2 as well. All that being said, we have to remember that nothing was going to happen for a couple of years when it came to Spider-Man, no matter which company was the one at the helm. This means that ultimately there is still a lot of time left for Spider-Man to officially be returned to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if nothing else, quote-unquote, air bunny quotes, officially, we can at least look into getting alternate Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the meantime, it's time for Marvel fans to look ahead to Phase 4, which starts with Black Widow solo movie. After that, an entirely new universe begins for Marvel fans, starting with the debut of the Eternals. Once we get past 2020, wow, it seems so far away, we're getting back to the thick of things with various TV shows as they are set to debut in late 2020 and into 2021. After that, it's time for the next round of Phase 4 in 2021. In the meantime, stay tuned for another installment covering news, theories, spoilers, and ideas about all things Avengers and Marvel Cinematic Universe. We'll be back soon. See ya.